Hello there and welcome to this Day Live, the Sunday talk show that will discuss all things political, bringing you the top stories locally, nationally, and from around the world. I'm Ni Uilo, and this Day Live begins now. Good to have you back. I'd like to welcome today's panelist, Professor Buhari-Trump, DG Buhari Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, and Ayo Teriba, CEO, Economics Associate, and Arise correspondent Labo Daniel. It's good to have you all. Now, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari was on Monday hosted by US President Donald Trump, making him the first leader from sub-Saharan Africa to be invited over by the current American president. The two leaders discussed the issues on security, trade and migration, among others. Let's listen to President Buhari's speech on the White House lawn.
Thank you. No, I think it sends the right.
Our aim is to diversify our own economy by focusing on agriculture and food security, power and infrastructure. We have cut the importation of rice by 90%, thereby saving a significant amount of money. We very much welcome increased United States investment in Nigerian economy, especially the non-oil sector. Economic relations between Nigeria and the United States are anchored on three major instruments, namely the Binational Commission, Trade and Investment Framework Agreement, and the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. The Binational Commission in particular, comprising bilateral, political, economic, developmental, and humanitarian partnership, is a basic economic framework for engagement between our two countries. Nigeria's trade volume with the United States stood at $6.07 billion United States dollars, according to 2016 statistics, and comprised $4.76 billion United States dollars worth of Nigerian export to the United States and $1.894 billion United States dollars exports to Nigeria. We urge greater effort to increase these figures substantially. We thank the United States government very much for cooperation we have received in our effort to recover stolen funds. Our two governments have put the machinery in place for their respective attorney generals to collaborate in ensuring the return to Nigeria of over 500 million United States dollars of looted funds siphoned away in banks around the world.
Nigeria's president there, Buhari, on a visit to the United States. Now let's listen to what President Trump had to say.
I'm pleased that Nigeria is one of our largest trading partners in the region, and we look forward to growing our trade relationship based on the principle of fairness and reciprocity. But we give Nigeria well over $1 billion in aid every year, and we have already started talking with the president about taking down the trade barriers, very substantial barriers to the United States trading with Nigeria. So we think that we are owed that. President Buhari to join the coalition to defeat ISIS. And most of all to me, and again, is ripping down those trade barriers. These measures will make it easier for Nigeria and the United States companies to invest. And we will be investing substantially in Nigeria if they can create that level playing field that we have to.
As President Donald Trump and, of course, President Buhari of Nigeria on a visit to the U.S., it's now time to review all of these stories as they unfold. And I've got, of course, our panelist, Professor Buhari-Trump, Ayo Teriba, and, of course, Labo Daniel. It's good to have you all. Now, I'm going to start with you, Prof. Presidency says that Mr. Buhari got what he wanted from President Trump. Now, how would you describe this statement?
This is a very difficult question you are asking.
Also,
Difficult because, according to the American president, our own president got all that he wanted.
Okay.
Now, what is the content of what we got? From the speech of Donald Trump, from the press interview granted, there is nothing to suggest that there was ever a request made by the Federal Republic of Nigeria as presented by President Muhammadu Buhari.
Okay.
I say this because the reports will tell us that Donald Trump made pledges, promises to do X, Y, Z.
All right.
Like in the area of security. President Buhari said that he thanked Donald Trump for giving us what we asked for. Whereas, in the area of the Tucano aircraft,
Yes.
it's not a gift.
Okay.
It's a contractual business
Agreement.
paid for.
All right.
And in this case, if you are giving us what we pay for, what is the big deal about that? The second point, in the area of agriculture, all right, the United States wants to sell more, wants to export more of its own agricultural products to Nigeria.
Okay.
All right? And the concern in Nigeria is that America, now being an oil exporter too, is no longer interested in importing Nigeria's oil. We know research has actually shown in the past that about 40% of our oil exports go to the US.
Okay.
Now, that one is no longer there. You take another issue. In fact, if you did watch the press interview, you will discover that President Buhari's visit to America is a political dependency-driven visit.
All right.
I wish we can have that image. You will discover that while Donald Trump was at ease, just, you know, he was just doing like this. Our president had his own hands, you know, massaging the fingers, one showing physiognomically that he was not at ease with himself. So when we are talking about gaining in what aspect? Beyond the fact that, well, he was invited, and people see it that, look, he was the first African president to have been so invited. Please, for God's sake, what is the big deal? When is Donald Trump superior to Muhammadu Buhari? Yeah. Muhammadu Buhari was a former head of state before he became president. All right? A military head of state, now elected president. So he has more experience than Donald Trump. However, he went there not as a sovereign president, but he went there as a dependent, you know, as if he was being embarrassed. And at the end of the day, please let me conclude on that one. You will see that Donald Trump was dictating the pace of discussion there at the press interview. And when he was fed up with the whole interview all along, he now said, Mr. President, now
so he had to say,
please, this is just an unnecessary political dependency that is not good for the leader of the black
all right,
people.
I'm going to go with Mr. Terry, but now, U.S. President Trump strikes one as a deal maker rather than an aid giver. So in that context, did that manifest in this trip?
Right. It needs to be said that in the history of Nigerian and American relations,
All right.
this is probably Nigeria's best moment since...
Why would you say that?
Since Jimmy Carter's
All right.
visit to Nigeria in the 70s.
1977.
Sorry?
1977.
Right. Under,
to be precise.
Under General Obasanjo's...
Okay.
He visited as president, he visited later when he had left.
All right.
I say it's the best moment because it's the first time a president of Nigeria will visit the United States. And the United States will be talking about trade, about persuading Nigeria to relax trade barriers.
Okay.
And he's saying that they will deal with Nigeria on the principle of reciprocity. So he is asking to export wheat or agricultural produce to Nigeria. Nigeria should also ask, based on the principle of reciprocity, to export under AGOA or whatever else we need to, not oil. You know, both now are net oil exporters. The days of America importing oil from us might well be over.
Okay.
But there are things Nigeria needs to export to the United States that cannot go through. So he's talking about Nigerian trade barrier. The fact is that they probably have more trade barriers against Nigeria than us.
Okay.
So one must commend, President Muhammadu Buhari for, bringing Nigeria to the level where we are not talking aid.
Okay.
We are talking trade.
Okay.
And the helicopters, the deal is not new. The deal, I think, had been negotiated under the
Jonathan administration.
And it was suspended unilaterally by the United States. The fact that they choose this period to lift that suspension is also a plus, And anyway, the focus is on the president's visit to the United States. But when we were discussing his trip the other day, some had implied that this was another medical leave, but it's been a working leave. He's been to the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
He has met with the Prime Minister, met with the Archbishop of Canterbury. So this trip that attracted a lot of skeptical comments from Asia has been the opposite of what they had portrayed it to be. And they were saying that the president shouldn't go indefinitely. He's back.
I would like Labo to take the next issue now. An ex-government official, Omarosa Magino, if you remember her, she confirmed in a tweet that President Trump did use profanity. I'm not going to use that word in describing African countries. Now, what was she trying to achieve, during the president's visit to the U.S. at that point in time?
To be honest, I really don't know, because I can't speak for her, but I also liked the fact that the president was also not distracted by it. So while he described an entire continent, the reality is Nigeria is a country, and he went there to represent his country. He didn't go there to represent Africa. So I think that was highly commendable. And I also think that it's important for us to realize that President Trump has said it before, and he'll continue to say it again, and I totally agree with Prof, America first. And rightly so too, to be honest, because I mean, he's going to stand for the interests of his own country first before ours. So it's now left to us to now negotiate and decide what we want out of the deals, whether it's the war planes, whether it's trade, whether it's immigration, whatever it is, the reality. But the good thing is he also went with a good team. So he went with his Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Minister of Justice, and several other people. So for me, it's really coming to that table to actually agree. So it's not, I mean, this whole idea, and I again agree with Prof that it's something to celebrate. It's, I mean, for me, to be honest, I mean, America called us for a reason. They saw something they were going to get out of us. So it's now left for us to then come to the table
and get something.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So this is not the time to celebrate. It's when the deals are sealed and we see what we get out of it. That is when we celebrate.
Compared to the last time
briefly,
a Nigerian president went to visit an American president, that was President Obasanjo, I think. Okay, maybe that's not that. Maybe President Jonathan. President Obasanjo. The conversation was more like, are you going to modify the constitution so that you can? So this time is not any derogatory comment. There is no personal integrity issues with President Buhari.
Exactly. So it's all about countries to country dealing regarding that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. We have to go on a short break here on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show. When we return, we'll be discussing Nigerian workers' plight. Don't go away. Sorry. It's good to have you back on This Day Live, the Sunday Talk Show here on the Rise News channel. Nice to have with me Professor Bola Akiterewa and, of course, Dr. Ayo Teriba. Always a pleasure to have you, gentlemen. Now, I'm going to start with you again, Prof. Would you say May Day celebration has lost its significance with persistent socio-economic problems Nigerian workers have to go through on a daily basis?
The mere fact that May Day, May 1st, will always come, clearly suggests that there's no way we can be talking about the loss of its significance. Secondly, May Day is a world day, a day specially reserved for all workers the world over to reflect on the conditions of work. In fact, one scholar had described why we work, all right? We work in order to produce, all right, to add value. From this perspective, we cannot talk about loss.
All right.
It has not lost anything. It has only provided a platform to reflect on the situational reality of conditions, the environment of condition in the previous 365 days.
All right.
Every May Day is an opportunity to have a panoramic view of the situation of work the world over.
Okay.
So I think that to a great extent, it is good. And it allows for a look, you know, a peep into the future.
Talking about the peep into the future, I'm going to take this intro for the benefit of the viewers out there. Now, Tuesday, May 1st, marked Workers' Day globally. Now, in Nigeria, the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, used the opportunity to reiterate its demand for a 66,500 naira national minimum wage. Now, from the current 18,000 naira, and insists that equal pay rise is a right for workers at both federal and state levels. Now, the NLC has given the government a September deadline. How feasible is this increase, and what is the current rate of Nigerian workers? And to shed more light on this, I'm going to have Dr. Teriba take the next question. NLC says no going back on the 66,500 naira minimum wage. How feasible is this?
Oh, well, it should be said that 18,000 naira minimum wage.
And even the government has admitted that, look, that concept is more or less expired, that they can't realistically abide by that.
More than that, the government has also admitted the need to move up and meet the demand of labor.
Okay.
The question is whether they will find the resources to meet it.
Talking about
So
resources,
it's
I'm
not
sorry.
a lack of willingness, you know, it's more now a question of how soon can the federal government find the money to do it, and how soon can the state governments?
Yes, that was what I was going to emphasize on. You know, if the state governments have been fuming about their inability to implement the 18,000 naira minimum wage, what is to have them, you know, this new proposal on the 66,500, will they be able to, you know, implement it?
Oh, well, the point is that it's been a while since 18,000 has been fixed as the minimum wage.
Yes.
And at the time that it was fixed at the minimum wage, the exchange rate was probably around 100 naira to a US dollar.
Yes.
Maybe 120 naira to a US dollar. Now you're at 360 naira to a dollar. Inflation had been running at close to 20%.
That's true.
Just dropped below 15%, about 13% now. So the real trouble with the wage, with the minimum wage, is not the figure of 18,000.
Okay.
It is the erosion by devaluation of the naira, by inflation.
All right.
Were it to be possible for the government to engineer a policy that will see a significant appreciation of the naira,
Okay.
that wage would appreciate. 18,000 would no longer be small.
Exactly.
You know, so let's situate it correctly. So what's eroding the wage is the weak naira,
Okay.
or the inflation. What's increasing the incidence of poverty? What's making our economy that used to be the biggest in Africa look smaller is the weak naira.
Okay.
So steps that the government takes to strengthen the naira will boost the welfare. That's one. Secondly, whatever steps that the government takes to increase the delivery of infrastructure will enhance what the 18,000 naira can buy.
Exactly.
So I am not going to be able to speak on behalf of the government, whether federal government or state government, on when and if they can find the resources to meet the demand. Nobody is denying that the Nigerian worker deserves a rise in minimum wage.
Exactly.
It's just a question of, given that at a point, more than half of the states couldn't even find the resources to pay the 18,000.
Exactly.
Now we are debating, multiplying it by 2 or 3.
Yeah, in view of what the doctor just said, Professor, how would you gauge or assess the role of the National Assembly in all of this? Yes, the attention has always been the federal government in this regard, but even then, NLC had a lot of grouse on the emoluments. The senators and the National Assembly, the House members were taken then, and it was like a slap on their face. Like, look, all the sit-ins and everything, and we're doing all the work and all that. So, how would you assess their own proactiveness, as it were, or lack of it, towards the workers' plight?
The reality versus the declared policy. Now, the reality is that the National Assembly has openly shown its readiness to discuss the bill, to consider bill and expeditiously to pass a law, in fact, promulgate a law in the long run on this increase in salary and minimum wage. All right. So that's the reality. Now, the extent to which the reality can now be translated, right, into enforceable law is a different kettle of fish entirely. You did ask the question: is 66,500 naira feasible?
Yes.
If it is feasible, is it possible to meet the obligation by September, as insisted upon by the labor unions?
Yes, sir.
But the third issue there, which you mentioned in passing, but not tracing it directly, you see, is the other conditions, right? For instance, it's not just the minimum wage that was discussed. They are also talking about the implementation at the private sector level. All right? Meaning that anyone recruiting worker in the private sector, whether as an organization, institutional employment, or individual, the minimum wage will still be 66. All right? In that case, it will not be feasible for small organizations. For institutions, yes. Why, for instance, it may not be feasible? As Ayo rightly pointed out, he was looking at the environmental conditionings, of course. The truth is that, and this brings me to the question you directly raised.
Yes.
We have an organization, all right, meant to discuss, to fix salaries.
Yes.
The National Assembly refused to comply with that, considering that they are representatives of the people, decided now to fix their own emoluments.
Yes.
All right? In this case, the members of the National Assembly are operating above the law. So this is an issue. And I think that since everybody admits that there should be a minimum wage, that 18,000 is not a living wage.
Very good, Prof. I'm going to have to, but Dr. Terry, just briefly, add to that.
Yes. The conversation, the debate about minimum wage in Nigeria is faulty on one premise.
All right.
When the minimum wage is discussed in other parts of the world, they don't discuss a monthly wage. They discuss an hourly wage,
All right.
an hourly minimum wage. And that makes it easier for employers to accept and pay it, because you can then ration the number of hours that you want workers to be employed for.
Okay.
And the worker can choose whether he wants to do one job or two jobs or three jobs or four jobs to make up the hours. So the sooner Nigeria will go away from monthly wage to hourly wage rate, the better it will be for both the workers and the private companies, the states and the federal government. Then you can ration the hours.
No, but your discussion falls within the framework of daily workers. All right? Daily workers who will be required to point the time of entry and then look at how many hours you spend at work. When you go on break, they deduct it. It's not part of work. You see, our own system, as much as I agree with you, our system in Nigeria is deliberately made exploitative. Right? It's exploitation. Why, for instance, an assemblyman or another person can earn millions.
So the disparage is there.
No. That I will contest.
All right.
Expenses are not salaries.
Okay, gentlemen.
Even workers don't pay expenses from their minimum wage. A wage is a wage. You know, the costs of the office they use, the cost of the activities is not part of the wage.
The basic salaries remain the same. Public service regulations, they are there, clearly saying this is your basic salary. For instance, all these top executives. When I was a director general, I was put on top salary level 4. All right, the basic there. Then what we are now talking about, it talks about furniture allowance, 300% of basic.
No, travel.
Really, everything is stipulated. I'm so sorry, but we very good. I'm so sorry, but we need to go on another short break here on This Day Live, this Sunday talk show. When we return, we'll be speaking on the government's ban on codeine. Don't go away. Good to have you back on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Rise News channel. The Nigerian government on Tuesday banned the production and importation of codeine as active pharmaceutical ingredient for cough syrup preparations. Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, said the directive to the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, NAFDAC, became necessary due to the gross abuse codeine usage has been subjected to in the country, especially in northern Nigeria, where reports say 2 states, Kano and Jigawa, consume 3 million bottles a day. 3 million bottles is a lot, Prof. Now, a pharmacist, I spoke to a pharmacist not too long ago, about 2 or 3 days ago, and he told me codeine is not harmful to humans when prescribed by a doctor. So why is this abuse now prevalent? Okay, I'll let the professor answer that. So I'll come back to you, Dr. Teriba.
Well, if it is good by prescription, the implication is to say that the medical practitioner knows the quantity required for the body.
Yes.
That abuse in this case is that people are taking it in excess of what will be required. And that at the end of the day, when it is not controlled, then you'll be talking about the damaging impacts. So this is the way we must look at it. The issue now, even though we are not pharmacists, the beauty of the ban is that it is coming from a competent, medical or paramedical practitioner. The only thing I don't like about it is simply that we always react to international pressures, observations, and so on and so forth. Why do we have to wait until the report will have been given by the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation? Many cases we can always refer to. When people complain in Nigeria, attention is not promptly given. But when, for instance, the complaints, the observations are coming from abroad, then we act. But apart from that, I think so far, let's say so good, since it is meant for the well-being of the people of Nigeria.
All right, very good. Now, Dr. Terry, about the gravity of this ban, what does that tell you?
Yeah, I'm very worried. I was worried when I saw the documentary, but I was more worried by the reaction of the government.
Okay.
I think the measure announced by the government is extreme, and it's not called for.
Okay.
You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's what the government has done. I've taken Benelin with Codeine.
Yeah, we've all taken it at one point in time.
So they are, just because they find abuse. You said 2 of the 36 states and the FCT. So because of abuse in 2 states, they are banning the use. That's the baby gone with the bathwater. Right. So Nigerian government should learn to curb abuses without prohibiting legitimate uses.
Okay.
So the states, so increase monitoring, educate the populace, curb abuse.
Well, briefly,
Why do you
think it's a weakness of the institutions, the regulatory institutions that should be monitoring the dispensation of that?
Yeah, and banning means that they won't get to the root of the problem, they won't solve it. Because if you did not ban, you can engage the manufacturers and know who had been abusing, who had been selling to the black market.
All right, very good.
You can engage the states and monitor those here.
Okay, Labo.
But now you're not going to do anything, you banned it.
All right, Labo, do you think lack of parental control, to a large extent, could have led to this development?
I think that it takes a village to raise a child, right? So there's the government, there's the parent.
Yes.
Because
it's not just the government.
Exactly, there's the government, there's the parent, there's the teachers. Like, it's a whole ecosystem.
Exactly.
So in terms of parenting, there's so much a parent can do. Because I remember having this conversation with a cousin of mine who is a teenager in a Christian secondary school, and we're just having a conversation because I work with teenagers, and I know the prevalence of drugs and several other what they use in addition to codeine. And it's it circulates in the school. So nobody knows how it works. People bring it in and all of that. But I think more importantly for me is big ups to the journalist who is a friend of mine, Jennifer, that I know very well. And for me, she's Nigerian. So she's a Nigerian who did the story and did a great job on the story. It shows the power of journalism. There's a problem. All of us, again, need to solve the problem. Now, it's been an ongoing conversation. So it's not just a documentary that just sealed it. The Pharmaceutical Association of Nigeria has been having conversations with the government. There have been several conversations back and forth with this. Now, the report made us, again, I agree with Dr. Terry, it was very drastic. And it was almost the lazy man's way out.
Very, very good. Now, Professor, just to add to that, you have a situation whereby alternatives were given before the additive of codeine was banned. I've forgotten the precise scientific name. But in that regard, who is to say the alternatives given won't be abused?
I think we need to even understand the word abuse in context of the ban. We should not just look at the ban as if it is a decision just taken by a minister. Please, the minister had gone through various reports, inquiries. And the issue now is that if Ayo is talking about limitation of the abuse to 2 states, must the government wait until it spreads to the totality of the country? Now they look at the damaging effects that already. Abuse in this case is not just taking a drug. All right, you get drunk or you behave in a nasty manner. No, it has been discovered that the quantity of codeine put, all right, in a cough syrup, all right, does not have a good, effect on the body.
All right.
And in this case, that one was done. Now the question is, if the alternative medicine product material is to be abused in the future, we will now come back again to the regulatory institution as Labo raised.
Okay.
I think that we need to be honest with ourselves. You see, there are some professionals in government
Okay.
who are renowned internationally.
Okay.
All right. This Minister of Health is one of them. They work for World Health Organization. They advise them. So they have the relevant competencies.
Okay.
So when they advise, not in the area of politics, not in terms of electoral engineering, when it comes to technical issues, we must learn to listen to them and see. It cannot just be for self-glorification if they say it is banned.
Very good, Prof. Now, 1 minute, Dr. Teriba, what's your take finally on that?
Banning will only increase the price of the substance. You will ban formal pharmaceutical companies from producing it, but there will be illicit producers all over the country. So the solution is never going to be a ban. People abuse water. People abuse food. So if you hear now that people are abusing water, is the solution going to be banned? So go after those communities where this is, prevalent. Go after the manufacturing companies that are known to be selling, to the black market and solve the problem. This is escapist, and it's not going to solve the problem.
All right, Labo, your last word on that, on this.
For me, it's an entire ecosystem.
Okay.
The journalist has done their bit, the government is doing their bit, parents should do their bit, schools should do their bit, churches, mosques should do their bit. Everybody needs to do their bit to end this.
Very good. Now, it's time for a break here on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. Stay tuned. Good to have you back on This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Rise News channel. Now, the governorship primaries of the All Progressives Congress in Ekiti State on Saturday was suspended indefinitely amid violence and protest at the election venue in Ado-Ekiti. Now, the electoral contenders are currently pointing fingers at each other at the course. Now, the Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Kayode Fayemi, has blamed desperate aspirants for the violent disruption, while co-contestants Babafemi Ojudu, a special advisor to President Muhammadu Buhari on political matters, whoever blamed Fayemi for the violence. Gentlemen, now, when it comes to electoral violence, why is Ekiti most often in the news for the wrong reasons?
In the news, not for the wrong reasons. Because Ekiti, like Ondo State, these are people. Obafemi Awolowo have noted in his books, memoirs, that there is no household you don't have a graduate. So everybody is not only literate, all right? Everybody is educated.
Has a strong view.
They are mentally alert. It's not a place whereby you can come and say you want to read. I only need to remind you to recall the story of Oma Boriowo and Owo Borioma. The twisting that, look, at the end of the day, you go to Ekiti there. You don't take anybody for granted. You don't even take a primary school or a driver in Ekiti for granted. Because everybody, like the northern Fulani Hausa man, who, all of whom are generally very current in international affairs because they carry radio everywhere. They are the first to break news if there is school, etc. So the people in Ekiti State, that's how they are. And in this case, when you have a governor who is also fighting the incumbent government, and an agent of the incumbent government who is also from the state, the Minister of Mines there, Fayemi, and is now coming. You look at the story generally. You cannot come and be advising an elderly person who is said to be illiterate how he's going to vote, etc. The party agents were on ground, and they were able to see for themselves to say, okay, look, in the 4 or 5 states where they said the voting had been concluded, all those things, they were already complaining, and they are now saying, oh, this is what government wants to do. Then you must expect what the French people have described as order and counter-order, amounting to disorder.
All right. Very good, Prof. Now, Dr. Teriba, you would have expected a measure of civility on the part of the APC, given the fact that they are the opposition in Ekiti State. So what do you make of this infighting, towards this?
Right.
primaries?
The point made by Prof about the high level of literacy in Ekiti State, makes it in very bad taste that this would happen in a state reputed for such high level of education. And I will not make anything of it until we get a formal report on what transpired.
All right.
Everything we are commenting on now are hearsay. I watched some video online of one guy. The guy that started the problem is known. He was seen in the video.
Yes.
Yeah, so who is he? Bring him up. Let's know who he was acting for. But I cannot, rely on claims and counterclaims by candidates accusing, pointing at one another. Who even knows whether it was not the opposition that sent the hoodlums there? So until there's, and I think that the government owes Nigerians an explanation of what happened there until we get such an official report.
But as Niyi pointed out, it has been suspended indefinitely.
Yeah, and I was shocked. I was shocked that the law enforcement agents were there. There were gun-wielding policemen, mobile policemen, next to the guy. The moment the guy acted, they were next to him.
Very good.
And they couldn't stop it.
Very good, Dr. Terry.
That's shocking.
Which goes to Labod now. The police were earlier warned that there might be plans to disrupt this rally. But then again, what happened, happened. So what does that tell you beyond making pronouncement by the police, okay, don't do this, don't do that. But then again, we still had this issue. Okay,
so we can always sit and pretend like we don't know that sometimes with the police, I mean, he who pays the piper dictates the tune, because nobody knows who is in charge of this, what they were briefed on, and who they're there for. So, I mean, to that extent, even they probably didn't even know what to do because they didn't know what faction was in charge of that. But I think more importantly is, I mean, this is 2018. We need to stop acting like cavemen. I mean, this violence, this whole ballots picking, running away, this is 2018.
Right.
And for a state like Ekiti, as you rightly pointed out, I mean, this is a joke about them having the highest number of professors in the world, even apart from even Nigeria. Is, I mean, where does the intellectual capacity of the state translate to the elections?
Very good.
No, intellectual capacity means non-acceptance of
what is wrong.
Yes, what is wrong.
It also means civility.
No, hold on. Look, you see,
the talks among intelligence is very contradictory.
Civility is not the issue. The reported reason for the violence is that, is that of perception of government now aiding and abetting Fayeme's side to get him there.
That's hearsay, Prof.
It's not the hearsay, that's the reported.
That's hearsay. That's, like relying on the account of one side.
If you say it's hearsay,
because Fayeme has also issued a statement pointing fingers at others.
Okay, very good, gentlemen. We'll have to leave it there. Now, we'll go on this next story regarding the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, which has just signed a $2.5 billion bilateral currency swap with the People's Bank of China. Now, this agreement, which had taken 2 years to negotiate, will allow the two countries swap a total of 15 billion Chinese yuan for 720 billion naira, or vice versa. In the next 3 years, the transaction is aimed at providing adequate local currency liquidity to Nigeria and Chinese industrialists and other businesses, thereby reducing the difficulties encountered in the search for third currencies. Now, it will also assist both countries in their foreign exchange reserves management, enhance financial stability, and promote a broader economic cooperation between both countries. This comes at a time where Nigeria's foreign reserves have inched up to $48 billion on higher oil prices, given the country's leverage in its negotiations with the Chinese Central Bank. Now, I'm going to start this discussion with Dr. Terry Ba on this. Now, is this a good deal on a short-term level?
Well, it is a good deal.
Right.
Any foreign exchange that Nigeria can get would relax the constraints of inadequate supply of foreign exchange. So 2.5 billion is good. It could be half bread.
Okay.
Been better than none. Since February last year, the Nigerian government started, raising euro bonds, 1.5 billion in February for a start, later on 3 billion. We are hearing another 2.5 billion, and here is another 2.5 billion.
Okay.
It's very, very good steps in the right direction.
All right.
But the Nigerian situation is not about 2 billion. It's not about 5 billion. These are pittance.
Okay.
Nigeria, Saudi Arabia is in the market looking for 200 billion in foreign direct investment through privatization.
Okay.
So the drop in our annual export revenue is in the order of 40, 50 billion. So yes, it's good direction, but it's not enough.
Very good, Doctor. Now, Prof, analysts have warned Nigeria to be very cautious of this deal in view of their trade exporting advantage, as it were. So what do you make of this development?
First of all, the $2.5 billion we are talking about is within the framework of bilateral strategic relationship between China and Nigeria.
Yes.
It should not be seen outside of that particular framework. So that 2.5 billion itself should be enough for the period of 2 to 3 years earmarked for it, for the traders, all right, for the businesses to operate to the required standard.
All right.
Now, what I think is the issue is that at the political level, the strategy of Nigeria is to reduce, political dependence on the dollar and on the pound sterling, but basically the dollar. At the economic level, as you rightly pointed out, that look, to remove the pressure, all right, on the naira, especially if the dollar that we are using is devalued. Now, culturally, with the agreement, we are now likely to have more exchanges of academic planners, teachers, cultural organizations, both ways. The critical point there is that, look, instead of going here and there, helter-skelter, looking for a dollar, now Nigerians, the Chinese entrepreneurs, can just take advantage of what is available. In fact, what the Chinese have provided Nigeria, the Nigerian government is yet to take advantage of it. We still have the issue of $10 billion dollars right there, set aside by the Chinese government over the years.
Okay. On that note, we would like to wrap up the program because we've finally run out of time. Labo, I would have taken your take on that, but it's almost gone. Now, Professor Bola Akiterewa, DG, Buhari-Trump Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, many thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Labo Daniel, Rice correspondent, many thanks for your thoughts on the issues. Dr. Ayo Teriba, CEO, Economic Associates, it's good to have you. You'll be watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Rice News. I'm Ni Wei-Lo. From my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thanks for being there.